Okay, so once again, so welcome to Madu once again, and I'm Pak Andi. So today we will have a very special moment with Bapak Paul. So as I know, he is our mentor in Madu school, and for furthermore, I can't say a really big thing about him, but he does really wonderful thing in the school, and I will give the time to him.
Okay.
So time is yours.
Terima kasih. Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having me here today. Maybe I should give a little bit of a background so you know who I am, where I'm coming from, and all that. Nicole is my wife, and I arrived in Bali 5 weeks ago after our 2-year prison sentence in Australia. So good to be back. And I've taken 1 year off my normal job, which is to be director of music at Perth Waldorf School. Perth Waldorf School is probably the largest Waldorf school in Australia. We have about 600 students, and I've been running the program there for 12 years. I've served on college there. Nicole and I also set up our own Waldorf school 25 years ago in the hills of Perth, Western Australia. And yes, so we know what it's like to start a school, a lot of work. We really admire what you've done here. It's a dream come true. It's so, so beautiful here. So yeah, we've just offered what we can to the staff in the last few weeks, helping them with any questions that they have. And yeah, we'll be back in August to continue this experiment. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge where we are right now. I'm used to doing this in Australia, to acknowledge the spirits of the land, the gods, the goddesses that make this place so special. The Dewas, the Bhuttas, everything we respect in this land. So we just take a moment to connect to where we are and give thanks. And we can say Om Swastiastu. Terima kasih. So the title of the talk, I believe, is something like the spiritual essence of Waldorf education. So we had to put the word spirit in there just to get more people coming. And I've been told not to mention cigarette factories and that we're actually a secret cult. So Waldorf education begins with the spirit, and I guess that's our destination as well. Just to make it clear, we need to give it some sort of framework. We're not just about educating academics, thinking. That's actually not part of what we're doing here at Madhu at all. So if you've ever been to Ibu Puspa's kindergarten and heard her wonderful birthday story, if you've been lucky enough to experience that, where we talk about the child coming down this rainbow bridge, perhaps being held, the hand is being held by an angel, and we can picture, we can feel something of our spiritual origins in this. And this is where we believe our children come from. It's hard to intellectualize. Every religion has possibly a different kind of way of explaining it. So we just give it this beautiful picture of the rainbow bridge and the angels singing. And this is where we all come from. And when you hear that story, many parents, their tears well up in their eyes, and they recognize something very special and very, very true about that kindergarten story. This is where we come from, and this is the appropriate way of telling a child where we come from, this magical, beautiful world, which adults call spiritual. And of course we gradually land on the earth, and this happens through phases. And Steiner goes through very almost scientific methodology of these phases of coming down to the earth. After we are born, we're not ready yet. We're not ready to encounter the earth as an adult. Obviously, we don't give a 1-year-old its first mortgage and tax return and his first, tell me who he's going to marry and all that. We're not ready for the world. It takes a long, long time to be ready for the world. I'm reading about giraffes the other day. Giraffes fall about 6 feet from their mum's womb. Boom! And the shock of that makes them breathe. And within an hour, they have stood up and taken their first step. Isn't it amazing? Within 1 day, they've learned how to run. A bit different from human beings. Within 2 years, they've reached their full giraffe height. So when is a human being ready? When have they reached their full height? When are they ready? When can they say they're actually here, physically, fully present for the world? We sometimes say 21, 18. Some of us perhaps still not ready. So yes, it's a gradual phase of what we call incarnating, coming down to the physical world. So I know there's probably a lot of different philosophies, religions here, because we're from Ubud, right? Everyone's got their own spiritual path. So I ask you to be tolerant and open, and to this particular way of our spiritual picture of the child. And we are asking our teachers in Waldorf schools to try and envision this spiritual picture of Rudolf Steiner. We ask them to just walk this journey to try and understand Steiner's picture. Rudolf Steiner himself was incredibly spiritual. I think Balinese people would call him an orang pintar. He was born with a spiritual vision. By the time he was 7, he already realized he was different. He could see the spiritual beings behind the trees, the bamboo, the flowers. As probably most children can. It's just that when they start to talk about it with adults or older siblings, they say, I can't see that. And then they start to shut away this spiritual perception which a lot of children have. Rudolf Steiner insisted, he was very, very strong-willed and insisted on carrying this spiritual vision through the rest of his life. When he went to school, he realized there was something missing. They only taught this physical, materialistic view of the world. Same when he went to university. And in his 20s, he vowed, basically, to try all he could to convey his spiritual vision to the world. And the only way he could be taken seriously was through an academic language. So he wrote his first book in his 20s, The Philosophy of Freedom, in which he proved in the latest philosophical academic way the existence of God and the spiritual world and the human freedom. And he went through this period of writing and giving speeches, intense meditation and introversion, where incredible spiritual wisdom was revealed to him. He was prolific at giving speeches, lectures all around Europe. But this wasn't enough. It was touching his thinking. It was coming into the words through the books and the speeches, but he wanted to bring it further down. So I'm going like this because it came into his feeling realm. So he developed the artistic way. Once you've contacted the spiritual world, you can talk about it, you can intellectualize it, you can try and make it academic. But then next we want to create with it. So incredible architecture arose, new architecture that no one had ever seen before. Ways of painting, drawing, sculpting, music. He wrote mystery dramas. So we had a 7-year phase where the arts flourished in brand new ways, and these arts were ways of expressing spiritual revelation. This was kind of during the First World War. And at the end of the First World War, Europe, of course, was in ruins, and he turned his attention to more relevant, more practical details. How are we going to rebuild Europe? How are we going to organize society? What about education? What about medicine, farming? So he gave lecture cycles on all of these things, and the first Waldorf school was built just in the last 7 years of his life. So to give you a picture of Rudolf Steiner, he didn't set out to be an educationalist, he set out to bring the spirit down here into physical reality. So let's jump into some Anthroposophy. Can you say that word first of all? Anthroposophy. Anthroposophy. Okay, this is the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, or Waldorf education. Anthroposophy. We have 4 bodies, according to Rudolf Steiner. We have a physical body, an etheric body, an astral body, and an I body. And many philosophical, religious thoughts and traditions have a similar kind of view of the human being. The physical body is obviously born on day 1. A little baby comes out and we have a physical body. The etheric body, or what we call the life body. Of course, the baby is alive, it has a life body. But we kind of say that the life body is all around it. And we'll talk about this in more detail. And it gradually becomes more and more integrated, more autonomous in the child throughout the first 7 years. When the child has fully integrated its own life body, we say that it is ready for school, around 7 years of age. And the astral, what we call the picture body, the desire body, is taught in the grade years through our wonderful teachers who give astral impressions, I'll explain all this later, to the grade school child until they reach roughly puberty, and it varies within different schools, and puberty can happen before 14, of course. Puberty represents the birth of the astral body, and then at some time, 19, 20, 21, young teenage or older teenagers, young adults start to ask questions about, well, who am I really? Where do I come from? What is the purpose of life? It'd be great if they did ask these questions. But these questions are a sign that they are asking who they really are. They're not just an astral being, or not just the life body, and not just the physical body. So that's the birth of the I. And this one's the most subtle one, and sometimes it never seems to happen. So many people are just stuck in their desire body. So many people are so obsessed with their physical body, that's all they think they are, what they see in the mirror and what they see in their Instagram selfie. So this I, who you really are, is hopefully something a bit beyond all of that. Okay. So let's talk about the birth of the physical first of all, and then we'll talk about how these other bodies form. Maybe we should go back one step further. Where do we come from? What happens before we are born? Okay, science doesn't go there. Well, they can take a picture of the fetus in the womb. But what would it be like? I want you to use your imagination, your feeling, your heart. You're suspended in this liquid environment. You've got a direct feeding tube to your mum. Your senses are not really working. what would it be like? You're kind of connected to everything. Your physical body is probably not so relevant yet. Perhaps the physical body, we can say, is just everywhere. I'm part of the whole cosmic body. So we try and imagine, we use the science of our own imagination and feeling and heart wisdom, what it's like before we're born. And then suddenly, whoa, here we are in a physical body, and my God, it's such a shock. Suddenly, light, our senses are overwhelmed, we feel cold, the tube has been cut. For the first time we're feeling hunger. Oh my gosh, how am I going to survive? My tummy is empty, and with incredible will, the child needs to move its head, it needs to move its mouth and latch on to food. Incredible will to survive in those first few moments. And this will continues for the next 7 years, particularly in the first few weeks and months. Nature doesn't give children everything. Nature gives children the will forces. The children have to find those will forces from within, not consciously. They have to find it from within themselves. What is this thing here? Oh my gosh, it's my hand. I realize I can move this hand. It must belong to me. What can it do? Oh my gosh, I can make it go like this. I can pick something up. I can put it in my mouth. I can discover more about the world. So much will involved in working out this body. And all I can see is the ceiling above me. That's where my mum put me. And then she turns me over, and all I can see is the bed below me. And with great will, eventually I can work out how to get from here to here and back again. So much will involved. And then one day you realize that you're not stuck in one space. You can actually manipulate space through crawling. Can you imagine how much will we needed to do that? Standing up, saying your first words. And the will gets more fine-tuned, once we can walk, we want to climb that tree, we want to play, we want to discover our limbs. And then it becomes even more fine-tuned into our imagination. We can turn this wooden block into a car, into a rocket. Will in thinking. You can turn it into a mobile phone. It's just a wooden block, so incredible will. And we don't give a child a formed toy already. We allow it to cultivate its own will in imagination and thinking. Just in the same way we don't pull it up and say, come on, move your legs, I want you to walk faster. We allow the child to develop its own will so it can be proud of itself that it can walk. Great. So the other thing we can say about these will years is that this etheric, this life force, as I said, it's all around the child. It hasn't fully come into the child yet. It's really, really important that the child grows up in a world that is full of etheric life forces. And if your children are growing up in Bali, it's easy. But imagine if your child grew up in a concrete box in a sterile city. Where is the life? Where is the life forces? In Bali, it's just everywhere. It's teeming with life. Children grow up a lot healthier with a much better head start if they can be filled with all the life forces around them. And everything they touch, whether it's the leaf or they're going fishing here, or everything they see is so full of life. It's amazing. We don't need to give them Lego. We don't need to give them a screen, a lie, what do you call it? Another version of reality, because reality is full of life all around them. They're also absorbing life forces from the adults that are around them. So we need to give them good examples of the adults around them. Are you a good example as a parent, or whoever is spending most time with the child? The kindy teachers, are they great examples, full of creative, life-filled imaginations and energy? The etheric body is also the place where we keep our thinking. And there's two kinds of thinking, we can say. There's this incredibly imaginative, creative thinking where we're open to all kinds of possibilities. And there's the other kind of thinking where the world is already fixed and formed and information and data. We can teach our children that kind of thinking. You go down the road to another school and they will tell you this is how the world is. There'll be a test on it tomorrow, learn it. No possibility, it's frozen knowledge. So if you're the kind of parent who is not fixed in their thinking, who is open to possibilities and creativity, then you're giving the child the necessary life forces in their thinking as well. They absorb your thoughts like a sponge. Probably realized that already. And there comes a time where the child has absorbed sufficient etheric life forces where they can start to form their own memories. Their thinking can start to become absorbed into their life force. They can also start to regulate their own life body. They might know when they're tired, for example, when they're feeling sick, whereas before 7 years, you have to tell them when they're tired and you have to put them to bed. They don't often know when they're sick. They just, one day they're fine and next minute, blah, they're vomiting all over the place. They don't even know that they're sick. So they get more of a sense of their own life force around here. And one of the signs that we can tell that they've developed their own etheric body is that they push out their second set of teeth. The first set of teeth is given by nature, by hereditary, by the parents. And the second set of teeth, we say, is their own set of teeth from their own life body. And of course, the will has gone from will in the body to actually having the willpower to sit still in a classroom and open your ears up to the teacher. There's so many noises around here, you know. Child gets distracted by the rooster, by the workers, by class 2s playing the recorder. So many will forces are required to just filter everything out, and I'm going to put my ears on my teacher. That requires great will. So the will has become more subtle and we're ready for learning here. Physical has been born, etheric has been born, and now we need to educate the astral body, which is the picture body. What is the astral body? The astral body is... Human beings seem to have this awareness that there is an outside world and an inside world. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Some of the great beings said it's all one. Out and in, it's all the same. But while we're developing our astral body, there's a very definite sense of outside and inside. So what picture do we form of that thing that's growing up there? It's very tall and slender, and it's got branches and it's got green stuff hanging at the top. We call it a tree. Do we give the picture of a tree is a botanical species in Latin, Eucalyptus marginata. It grows in the southwest of Australia. It is endemic to this particular area and can grow for 300 years and 50 meters tall. That's the tree. That's it. That's all it is. You can look it up in an encyclopedia. Is that the kind of picture we want to form of the world? An encyclopedic picture? Or do we read them the faraway tree? Do you know the faraway tree where there's all these amazing creatures living in the tree? There's Dame Washalot who throws her washing out, and there's Moonface, and there's the naughty pixie, and there's all these amazing creatures living in the tree. It's a living, imaginative picture of a tree. And sometimes the tree has fruit, and sometimes it has flowers, and sometimes it's green, and sometimes it's brown, and all throughout the seasons. This is a living being, a living, continuous possibility of a tree. That's the kind of astral picture we give of the world to our children. It is living and breathing and full of possibility. So that's a very typical kind of picture we give of the world for class 1. World is still magical. We're still in this halfway house between being a spiritual being and being on the earth. Things are quite dreamy, things are still quite magical, and we give them fairy tales. A frog can turn into a prince. 7 birds can turn into your brothers. You can walk in the forest and there can be a house made of candy. This is real for a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old. You know, this is their world. So the fairy tales are teaching them what? That the world is unreal, it's just a dream? The fairy tales that we use, we gather from all the world's cultures, and they are full of symbolism. And when you hear a fairy tale, perhaps you can remember back to your childhood, they are deeply resonating on some level. You cannot intellectualize why. We don't ask the children to think about stories, we just tell them the story and they go, wow, give me more story, tell me about the world. So, Hansel and Gretel are abandoned by their father, their good father, who doesn't want to abandon them. It's just fate that they have to go on their journey without the father. Father's very sad. And they're trying to get back to their father by putting little breadcrumbs in the forest, but all the elemental beings, all the bhutas, eat up the breadcrumbs. So they're on their own. Can you relate to that? Not to your own father abandoning you. The great father put us here in this forest. And, oh my God, I'm all alone. What am I going to do? And the house of candy. You've all met your house of candy where you just want to give me, give me, give me. Every child can relate to the house of candy. And you can feel it. Oh, should I? I don't quite trust this house of candy. But some part of me just says, go for it. And as soon as that happens, the witch comes. We've all experienced that witch. So how are we going to get out of this situation with the witch imprisoning the Hansel in his cage? Gretel has this idea of using the chicken bone for the finger. And basically it's her intellect, her thinking that gets them out of this situation. So we've been thrust into this world. Perhaps we've partaken of the candy house, gets us even into more trouble. And the only way to get out of it is through actually independently thinking your way out of it. And then you get reunited back with your father. A lot of symbolism in a story like that. So, class 1. Beautiful nature walks and the nature studies in class 1 is just being in awe of nature. Going for a walk and seeing an amazing butterfly and just going, wow, look at that, look at the colours. Just so they can appreciate the awe and majesty of nature. Knitting, we start this more fine-tuned thing with the fingers. We say that knitting is cosmic thinking, following the thread in and out, going up and down until it forms something. Your thinking is like a thread. We have lots of singing. Singing keeps us in tune with the cosmos, with the spirits. We have form drawing, where we draw straight lines, curves, all the basic archetypal patterns of the world. We learn about numbers and we learn about letters, but in a picture way, in a feeling way, never ever abstract. How do you teach numbers in a pictorial story way? Ask our class 1 teacher. Moving through the curriculum, class 2, the magic starts to disappear. It's harder to find the magic. You can only find the magic on a full moon night if you chant your special mantras and you're wearing your special amulet. Whereas in class 1, magic was everywhere, but on class 2, it's harder to find. We also have saints. We talk about saints, people who carry the magic with them, still have this connection with the magical world. Saint Francis can talk with the animals, for example. And fables. We start to teach morality and ethics, but not through black and white. This is good, this is bad, learn it, this is the rule. Never ever like that. In Indonesia we have the buaya and the kancil, the mouse deer and the crocodile. The crocodile wants to eat the deer, of course. This is the reptilian brain, just wants to eat, he's strong. But the mouse deer is nimble and can think her way out of every situation. You just tell them the mouse deer and the buaya story and they get it. Thinking, this part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain can trump the reptilian part of the brain, the crocodile part of the brain. Knitting becomes crocheting, the thinking becomes more intricate. Borrowing and subtracting numbers, writing words and sentences. We're on our way to more finely tuned thinking. And more here on the earth. So the picture is we're gradually coming down from the spiritual world and finding our way into the physical world. This happens quite succinctly in class 3. You can see what they're doing out there. They're learning about building. They're learning about gardening. They're learning about time, money, all the things of the earth that adults have. So the magic is starting to disappear. The spiritual world is now, we tell them stories about God. God has the magic. Human beings are kind of on their own now. Sometimes they can connect with God and do the right thing. Sometimes they do the wrong thing and they learn about the consequences of that. So we can teach them Old Testament stories or other religious stories where there is this relationship with a powerful God that we need to listen to, and what's the consequence of not listening to that. For example, the story of Joseph. Joseph was bullied by his brothers. Sometimes happens in schools, doesn't it? And he was sold into slavery by his brothers. And what a horrible thing. Children really feel, what would it be like to be thrown into a hole and then sold off as a slave? He goes to this other country and he's praying to God. And he gets these dreams from God that one day there's going to be a big famine. And so he tells the Pharaoh, we need to start saving our grains. And so when the famine eventually comes, his brothers are starving and they come crawling back to Joseph. They don't know that Joseph has now become a senior minister. And Joseph sees his brothers there, the ones who have bullied him, the ones who have sold him into slavery. What's he going to do? I won't tell you. Maybe we'd leave that one to the next day and the children would think all night long, what would I do? What would I do if I met my brothers who've been so mean to me? Okay, so continuing the journey, in class 4, the God become gods. We have the Norse myths, where there's all this pantheon of gods, the god of war, the god of nature, the god of wisdom, the god of this and the god of that. And they're starting to look a bit stuck in their ways. For example, the god of war has this hammer, his Thor, And all he can do is just smash things up. Not very bright up here, nothing up here. All brawn and no brain, we say. The God of wisdom is blind, half blind, which is quite kind of telling, isn't it? But there's a God called Loki, who is the trickster, and he tricks the gods into doing all these silly things and even killing each other. The gods are so stuck in their ways that they actually start fighting amongst each other, and at the end of class 4 they actually kill each other. The whole world comes tumbling down. Ashes, ruins, and from the ashes arise 2 human beings, a man and a woman. And anyone go to class 3 or 4, child? Yeah. So we talk about the 9-year-old, 10-year-old crisis. The world falls apart for the 9 or 10-year-old, subtly. For all this time they've been connected to your etheric, to their parents, especially the mother's etheric. But there's a time where it's definitely severed, and they look at mum for the first time and go, "Are you my real mum? Are you going to die one day? What's going to happen to me when you die? Was I adopted?" And there's this incredible sense of being alone in the world. And the magic that we've talked about, they've come from this magical world, class 1, class 2, so beautiful and magic. Santa Claus is probably, definitely gone. And as Steiner parents, Nicole and I observed our 9-year-old, and he was doing fine, and we knew about this crisis, and we just kept waiting for it to happen. Finally, at the end of the year, it was Christmas Day. Beautiful Christmas, so lovely. And at the end of the day, he just burst into tears. And he just said, "I'm so sad. I'm so sad." He said, "Why are you so sad?" "I don't know why I'm so sad." So we knew that was it. That was the crisis. So I guess he'd always experienced the magic of Christmas, and for the first time, perhaps it wasn't there. The children have to start to find it from within. They're kind of on their own, and we need to support them through this. As a more distant parent, you'll find that you'll be talking to them in a slightly different way. They are them, and you are you. And they still need you, but they don't want you in some ways as well. They know that they're alone. So the world falls apart, and we start to look at the world in bits and pieces. We never do that before this crisis. We never chop up the world. For example, when we sing, we never chop it up into melody, harmony and rounds, for example, because singing is so wholesome. But in class 4 we teach rounds, where someone is singing that bit, someone is singing the same song but 5 bars later or 4 bars later. We look at fractions. The world is not just a whole, it's bits and pieces. It's divided into halves and quarters and thirds and things. We look at man and animal. Am I a man or am I an animal? So it's the first kind of, who am I? What is a human being really? Are we just animals? So we look at that. We look at local geography. What is my place in this part of the world? Class 5 is when we go from the gods, fairy tales, to actual human history. And we start human history in this nebulous ancient world of ancient India, where human beings, we are told in ancient India, still had this intense connection with the gods and spirits. Of course, Bali has that direct connection with ancient India. To them, the world was still Maya, illusion. We then go to ancient Persia, where there's still a connection with the gods, but the world has become a necessary evil. We need to start farming it and cultivating it. We then go to Egypt. A lot happens in class 5, where the Egyptians are cultivating their land but still willing to keep this connection with God, building these huge pyramids to keep this connection with God. The rites that they did in ancient Egypt to keep a priest, to become a priest in ancient Egypt, you had to go through these incredible rites in order to keep your connection with the gods. Your soul was taken out of your body for 3 days and then put back in, and when it came back in, you were reborn with this spiritual awareness. Then we go to ancient Greece in class 5, which is, where again we see that the gods seem to have these human personalities. It's a beautiful year, actually. The 11-year-old is beautifully formed. We do the athletics, we do Greek Olympics. They sing beautifully. Class 6, they start to harden and start to get towards the teenagers. So class 5, we treasure that we call the golden age of childhood. Geometry, the beautiful forms of mathematics and the world, circles and spirals. Wood carving, getting more physical and forming the world. Botany, doing botanical drawings, looking with a much more sensitive eye at what the world looks like. Research projects, so we're honing our thinking into one particular area. Okay, I'm only going to go one step further, and that is class 6. We could go to 7 and 8, or even high school, but we'll stop at class 6. And this is the year of Rome. We come from ancient Greece and we go to ancient Rome. Do you know the difference between these two? One is still kind of connected with the gods, but the Romans are not really interested in gods anymore. They keep this kind of symbolic connection with the gods only. They adopt the Greek gods in name only. What they're really interested in is civilization. Roma, building stuff, making a government, and conquering as much of Europe as possible. Julius Caesar, money. They do business maths in class 6. They learn about the physical world through their senses. We do science for the first time, but only science that you can observe. It's not abstract conceptual science, like atoms and molecules that you can never see. It's things like magnetism that you can actually see. It's heat. What happens when you heat something up? It is acoustics. What happens when you get a violin string and you put your finger there, halfway through or a third of the way? What happens to the pitch? Astronomy with the naked eye, looking at the science of the heavens. Yes, Roma. When we hear Roma, Julius Caesar conquering the earth, we kind of feel it's a little bit imbalanced. Right, especially for children. It's very heavy. You look at the Roman statues, they're just like, here I am with my sword and my shield, ready to kill you. So what is the balance of Roma? Can you spell Roma backwards? R-O-M-A becomes amor, love. So perhaps we can find a balancing story. There's a beautiful story which I've heard in class 6 of the good shepherd who loves his flock of sheep. And he has such an intrinsic wisdom, and he still has this nature connection. Something like the innocence of childhood. And he meets the centurion, the Roman centurion, who is so fixed in his ways and sees the world in black and white. And the shepherd becomes the teacher of the Roman centurion. Something like that. Amor. We need, because, talking about class 6, we probably need to start talking about love to 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, in a nice way, in a good way, in the proper, beautiful way, before they experience love in a different way. Okay, so that's kind of a picture. We've come from fairy tales to Julius Caesar in 6 years. It's quite a journey, isn't it? And basically what we've done is followed human evolution. Steiner's view of human evolution is that all of us came from this spiritual world, and we have gradually become more and more incarnated, more and more physical here on the earth. I'm pretty sure, even just 2,000 years ago, we weren't really interested in kitas and mortgages and contractana and all that stuff. We were just probably a lot more spiritual and a lot more aware of the natural spiritual world around us. But here we are becoming more and more incarnated. Perhaps I should just balance it out by saying, once you feel intrinsically, painfully on this earth, you need to start thinking about how to get back to the spiritual world. And that's where the second half of education belongs, the adult education perhaps. And so I'm sure most of you are quite aware of the importance of your own spiritual development in order to find your way back to spirit. But if we give our children this healthy way of coming into their bodies where they feel safe, wholesome, cared for, nurtured, the world is actually a beautiful place. Of course there's ugliness, but we teach them through stories, through great moralities, pictures, how wonderful it is to be here. They can arrive in the world as wholesome human beings and find their way back when they are ready to their own spiritual destination, their own individual spiritual destination, I say, because we do turn them into individuals, not sausage factory. So the way we teach, of course, is through the astral. We expect our class teachers to be experts of imagination, of feeling, to bring the right picture at the right time, the right story, to hold the picture of the class, not just the curriculum, not just what story am I going to tell tomorrow, but my class is like an animal. Sometimes it's wild, sometimes it's tame, sometimes I need to calm it, sometimes we need to go out and be tigers. It's a constantly moving animal. They also need to be experts at the etheric body. Children breathe in and they breathe out. Sometimes we just need to go out and run around and get into our physical bodies and just experience nature. But after a while they just start to lose it. And so we bring them in. And we keep still and we maybe tell a story or do something fine with our drawing. But too long in breathing, we need to go out again. So we need to be sensitive to their breathing in and breathing out, their etheric. So Waldorf teachers that I know are very, very good at picking up the life force and the imaginations of their classes. I'd just like to finish by talking a little bit about Madhu. From what we've seen from our last visit and from this visit, Madhu has reached a really important time in its own life. And perhaps a school has a similar kind of life phase. Perhaps you can relate to something being born and a lot of will happening in the last, how many years? 6 years? Yep. And it comes from the spirit. Someone has this amazing idea. Waldorf school, it's like a spiritual calling. And it could just stay up there as just a beautiful idea. But it takes so much will to bring it down. Wow, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this? If we make a legal framework and then we have to get money and then we have to get teachers and we have to promote. And so much will has happened and still needs to happen. But I think we can definitely say we have birthed this school and so much will has gone into it. And what I feel, and Nicole and I feel, is that the imaginations of the school, the culture of the school, is something that we can look forward to in the next phase of its development. What is our particular ethical, morale, our culture? Who are we? What is Madhu? And to answer that question, we're all part of that, I think. And our founders have a vision, our teachers have a vision, and we're going to constantly form that vision. And of course, you as parents are invited to be part of that vision for the next 7 years. Okay, so I think I'd like to finish the talk there. Thank you, Rain, for blessing us. Maybe we'll just say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Terima kasih. Sukma.